Currently, the fire is 752,920 acres and 47% contained. We will be streaming this live on Facebook through the Plumas and Lassen National Forest pages. We will also post this in its entirety on NCWeb and our story map. First up, we will have an operational briefing from our Operations Section Chief, Chad Cook.
Good evening, everyone. I'm sure you've been following us on our daily updates that we have in the morning and again in the evening, but I'll just give you a brief overview on what's taken place operationally in the incident. Overall today, we had a pretty good lid on the fire. The fire had, with the inversion set in and not a lot of air movement today, we did not have much growth on the incident. Basically, the valleys were really socked in with smoke today. That's good and bad, and I'll get into that in just a moment for what took place. But let's start up here from the Janesville, from our zone line and work down. So everything that's up in the Wilson Valley area and Fruit Growers Boulevard over to the Sheep Fire Scar and then out to Janesville continues to hold in its containment lines. Lots of firefighters are in position. They have been patrolling, mopping up, backhauling equipment, and that continues all the way out east of this. As you move down Highway 395, and you grab the left flank of this fire that came off the rock escarpment and down into the 395 corridor that moved towards Milford and Janesville. That continues to hold. Resources are still in here. Perimeter control remains in place. A high presence of firefighters both in Milford, Janesville, and on the flanks of this fire continue to patrol and mop up so we don't have any threat of escape. In the Antelope Lake area, that smoke that was in here is slowly dissipated. As we know, we had a little pocket of fire that remained around there, and it was highly visible to all the communities. And we were getting several questions regarding what was still burning around Antelope Lake, and that was that small pocket that was in between the Moonlight Scar and the Walker Scar. That is consumed now, and that smoke is greatly dissipated. We do have people that are in here daily that are making sure that nothing can come across, because we do have one little area where it could come out over here. And again, they've controlled all that, so the threat of escape is greatly minimized. As you move down to the Walker Fire Scar that goes down this Taylorsville Road into the Genesee Valley, again, people ask us several questions. Why is there in here if it hasn't had any growth or anything? And again, this isn't an old fire scar. There's lots of material that continues to consume on the forest floor. We allow that to happen. This is not a threat to anything. This is just good management practices in here and letting it clean up the heavy deadened down material that's on the forest floor. I anticipate this going to blackline very shortly. As you move down into the Genesee Valley, where we've had a lot of, where I'm going to end up focusing most of my time talking about between here and Taylorsville, I'll talk a little bit about the fire activity in here. As you know, several days ago, I've briefed several times that when that northeast wind came out, we had a spot that flew over just below Grizzly Ridge. That spot spread laterally on the slope. It moved, and then it parked itself for a couple days where we were able to get some hand crews in there. We went from the bottom, we went from the top, we developed a helispot. We tried to go after it on this side. We had rollout on it, and again, rollout, heavy material, heavy timber, and this is like a land, I guess I'll call it an avalanche chute that's out here, and it has knocked all the timber down into the bottom, and it created a big jackpot of fuels that's in the bottom of this, and crews continue to work on this. We've had some lateral spread in the top and in the center, which has triggered us to have to look at the box that goes out towards the original fly fire scar out this way, and then back towards the town of Taylorsville, where, again, on my map, we're diving into a much bigger picture here. And again, my hand represents such a large area that this area right here that you see all the X's in around Taylorsville proper right here has multiple dozer lines that are around it. They continue to improve those lines in the event that we need to actually close the gap in here and burn this section before it reaches Taylorsville. So again, that is a strategic mission for us, and it is high on our radar on timing of this to protect Taylorsville. And again, Taylorsville has seen fire from the south. They've seen it when it wrapped around Indian Valley. They've seen fire come from the northeast, and it has hit the town in several directions. With that, we keep a large presence of resources that are in there. We've really developed a relationship with the people in the town in here. We've brought water into the town from a water source just at a canal there, and a stream, and all this continues to take place with a high presence of firefighters in the community to make sure it's protected. With that, all the way up into the Genesee Valley area, all the ranch houses, residential structures that are in here, outbuildings, improvements, everything that has been done in here continues to have a high presence of our resources in there to protect that stuff. We still have some heat in this valley. Everything on the north side looks really good. We've mopped it up. So if you're driving down the road, everything on the right side continues to look really good and mopped up. But out here in the meadow areas and into these canyons, these canyons that run up between Peel Ridge, Grizzly Creek, and out this direction here, we continue to still have heat and fallout from column development off of these two spots. So what's our plan? What's our strategy with all this, with an update with the fire? Our strategic plan is to continue to prep this ridge system. It looks really good from Mount Huff fire scar from the Fly Fire, as I mentioned. It comes out Grizzly Ridge. As it comes out Grizzly Ridge, it heads out just above the town of Greenhorn, and then it basically makes a hard left-hand turn to come back up to the Walker fire scar. There is a lot of mechanized equipment out here and a lot of moving pieces. We've brought in roughly 30 pieces of mechanized equipment are building this fire line. We've got hand crews. We've got engine companies. We're stretching it with hose. We continue to do fuel modification with masticators out here, and we're building this line to bring it back in. The issue is today, and last night and today, we had adverse winds, which means we had the wind in our face, all on this ridge, which causes spot fires to come over our line. We picked every one of them up last night. We had a few today. We picked them up today. They were not an issue. We're working in some high altitude fir up on the top here, and with the prep that we've done on the line, we've been able to handle any of the spot fires that's come over. When the weather's right, when the wind conditions are right and it's favorable, we will continue firing down this line. We'll round the corner and we'll bring it back in. That is our primary containment line. With that primary containment line, we have a backup plan. The backup plan, we have two lines that we've put in here, one in the road network and one on a ridge system that comes back down to Highway 70. And then we have a tertiary line, which is back here that protects the town of Quincy right here. So we have multiple fallback locations strategically placed in this fuel bed so we can actually protect the town of Quincy. As you know, last year, the Claremont fire that burned down here, which is a good fire scar, came across Highway 70. And again, very small, but a portion of it did come across, and it came across right down near Squirrel Creek. So the communities that are threatened by this fire, just based upon wind and fire movement, would be the Greenhorn community, Spring Garden, Cromberg, Sloat, and all the way out to Portola. We understand that the fire can move different directions, so there's different warnings that are put into these areas just because of potential for fire movement and fire behavior and wind. The rest of the incident remains in a patrol and mop-up stage. We're working closely with a lot of our cooperators in the area, and there's a lot of moving parts to what's going on with backhaul and the damage that this fire has caused. So operationally, there's a ton of resources that are moving around it. I do want to touch briefly on the Dyer Mountain area and the Lake Almanor area. That continues to look good, and I anticipate this going to Blackline. With that, that's an operational update. I'm sure you have a lot of questions that'll come in, but that's our overall strategic picture on what we have going on, and I'll hand it back to Kristen.
Thank you for that very thorough update, Chad. I do want to let everybody know there are some people who are experiencing some glitches in the feed. We will be recording this and posting this in its entirety. Next up, we'll have Plumas County Sheriff Todd Johns.
Good evening. I am Plumas County Sheriff Todd Johns. First, I would like to thank all the law enforcement mutual aid responders for their assistance. As I've mentioned before, we have law enforcement officers that are coming from all over California to help us secure people's property. I want to take a quick moment to recognize one officer, Harmander Gruel. On August 22nd, Officer Gruel and his partner were responding to the Caldor fire as Lima officers when they were involved in a head-on traffic collision with another vehicle that sent him and his partner to the hospital. Officer Gruel made the ultimate sacrifice while performing his duties as a public servant, responding to danger, and succumbed to his injuries yesterday afternoon. Our thoughts and prayers are with the Galt Police Department, the family of Officer Gruel, and the other officer and her family. Yesterday, I placed the northeast portion of Chandler Road area out to Greenhorn into a warning due to the progression from the Dixie Fire. Myself and my staff are monitoring this closely, and I would ask you that you please go to community.zonehaven.com to look at the mapping, and as they've already indicated, that's a very active portion of this fire, so that's why we made that choice or that decision. And then I would like to remind residents in that area who haven't or would want to evacuate voluntarily at this time. Our current shelter is set up at the Holy Catholic Church located at 108 Taylor Avenue in Portola. So again, that's the Holy Catholic Church located at 108 Taylor Avenue in Portola. Yesterday, I visited Greenville with the Office of Emergency Services Director and representatives from FEMA, as well as the governor's office. We spoke at length about recovery, public needs, and the needs of our county well into the future. I was assured repeatedly that we, as a county, are on the right track to get the affected citizens and the county as a whole the help and assistance we will need to recover from these catastrophic fires into the future. Water and power companies are actively working to restore services to affected areas so residents can return to areas when structures are undamaged or to their undamaged structures. I will say that I anticipate this could happen as early as next week, possibly by midweek or the end of the week. So I would suggest that you continue to follow our Facebook page for updates on this. In the coming weeks, my office will be working on information videos to relay information and answer questions the community has in regards to the Dixie and Beckworth Complex fires recovery process. These videos will be hosted by my office, but will have presenters from the Governor's Office of Emergency Services, as well as FEMA, who will be able to address questions from the public directly. Again, please follow our webpage for information and details on when these meetings will take place. Folks that have been impacted by the Dixie Fire and Beckworth Complex fires can expect to receive phone calls from my volunteers in the coming days to conduct a basic needs assessment as well. In closing, I want to extend my thoughts and prayers to our U.S. military troops who are overseas and those that are working this fire actively. I also want to thank the personnel working this fire and the community members for their support. My staff and I are here for you and will continue to work diligently to get you the resources you need for short and long-term recovery. And I did receive one question in regards to how Portola is looking, and I believe that was already answered. At this time, the fire is not threatening Portola. Should that change, you will be advised. So, again, it is not threatening Portola. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sheriff. Next up, Rollin from the California Highway Patrol.
Good evening, Sergeant Chris Rollin from Quincy CHP. I'm going to have the traffic control points as of August 27th, 2021. I'm going to go through the 4 counties. The first one is Tehama County, 36 eastbound at 89, SR 89. The second is SR 32 eastbound at SR 36, which is the west side of Mineral, and SR 36 westbound at SR 32. In Shasta County, we have Lassen Volcano National Park is closed. The National Park Service it's closed, I'm sorry. Lassen County is 36 westbound at SR 44. No westbound traffic at 36. It's closed between SR 36 and 44 to A21, which is just east of Westwood. There isn't currently fire activity in that area, but it's closed due to ingress and egress of fire personnel and for Caltrans to do fire damage restoration to the roadway to ensure it's safe to be driven on again. Caltrans appreciates all local communities for their support and understanding them in this difficult time. In Plumas County, it's Indian Falls at SR 89. There's no westbound Indian Falls traffic. Greenville at Wolf Creek Road, just west of 89. There's no westbound Greenville Wolf Creek Road traffic. Pex Valley Road northbound and North Valley Road eastbound. North Valley Road northbound and North Arm. Dixie Valley at 89. Arlington Road eastbound at Via Cava Ranch Road, and Main Street in both directions. The Plumas County area of Greenville and Indian Valley is staffed primarily of National Guard, so please be aware of that. The two closures, Sheriff John's already referenced one. The two are in Portola for Plumas County at the Catholic Church, and in Lassen at the Community College. It remains there. Just be mindful of the closures when you're traveling, and please make plans to travel in opposite direction if you need to. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sergeant. Next up, we will have Plumas National Forest Supervisor Chris Carlton.
Good evening, everybody. Thanks again for making time to join us for the East Zone update. Chris Carlton, Forest Supervisor here on the Plumas. Couple of things. So as you've heard, we're up to 753,000 acres and 47% containment. That containment is great to see that progress being made out there. We do remain working hard on this fire. You may have heard that we're going to be having a team transition, and I want to let everybody know that that's the incident management team. We're having a transition both on the West Zone and on the East Zone. And from our perspective here as the forest, along with all the rest of the cooperators, our commitment is that transition needs to be as seamless as possible, and that's one of the expectations we have of all of our teams. And we've been working really hard the last couple days to kind of get them up to speed. They're going to be shadowing, and the East Zone team is going to be taking command on Sunday morning, so they'll spend tomorrow shadowing the team. Again, our commitment is we want that transition to be as seamless as possible. We remain in unified command with CAL FIRE and our other federal agencies on this full suppression fire. We're committed to full containment. We're doing everything we can to get this fire, to get it contained and get it out. So just wanted to really recognize how hard the teams are out there have been working on that. I want to make sure we're also keeping the information flow, those team transitions. We want to make sure that no bumps in the road about the information you're receiving. So please, if there are any concerns or any issues, continue raising them. Really appreciate all the comments and questions that we're seeing in the chat. Also want to acknowledge our partners. As we go into this, that 47% containment number is great to see the increase, and it's really good to see the amount of black on that map growing. But I want to remember that black doesn't mean this is done or over, and it means there's still work to be done wherever there's black. You know, we know we're not there yet. We've still got some fire to fight out there. But as we start to look at those areas, we're going to have a lot of work on the ground out there, and that's going to involve PG&E, Caltrans, CHP, the sheriffs, OES, all that. You're hearing some of that now. They're already underway in some areas. So just ask you to recognize there's going to be a lot of work that continues going on across the whole expanse of this fire, even as we continue to see the containment increase. So in addition to suppression, there's a lot of other work that goes on out there. And so appreciate your patience as our cooperators are out there doing what they need to do. And last thing, we've heard a couple of comments. We had a loss of some law enforcement personnel. We've had loss of our military personnel yesterday, and really just want to acknowledge all of our first responders, firefighters, and service members who go out there. And it's very real to us here because we're seeing them put their lives on the line literally every day for us, and really just want to express some appreciation. So thanks to all of you. So thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you so much for that. Next, we're going to move into our question and answer portion. We're going to have our Operations Section Chief, Chad Cook, come up, and he's going to talk about Kronberg and Portola.
Thank you. A couple questions came in regarding the fire's distance between Kronberg and Portola. So again, if you look at our map, we're quite a ways out from this. This map really isn't a good representation of the distance that's in there. We showed about 11 miles away, 12 miles away from those communities right now. Greenhorn might be just a little bit closer than that, but it's quite a distance from that. Now, you have to remember, too, it has to come over a ridge system. If that fire crosses the ridge system, that sets a couple of triggers for us. I want to assure you that there is work that is going on between these communities. So I've given you the distance about how far it is. Portola is much farther. I don't know the exact distance from the fire to Portola, but I would say you can almost double that, triple that distance out to Portola from the fire's edge, so quite a ways. But as this fire continues to progress and we continue to keep our strategic plan of steering it back into the Walker fire, one thing I do want to tell you is that although this is our strategic plan to hold it to this line, we continually are assessing backup plans. That's why I talked to you about what happened in here. And again, we use different terminology. It's easier for me just to tell you that we have a plan, we have a backup plan, and we have a contingency plan. So we have things that are continually going out this direction to keep it from impacting those communities. Again, we've seen rates of spread on this incident, though, that are completely outside our threshold of control. So I just want to make sure people understand that this fire definitely has the ability to move, and that's why we have warnings. That's why we have, evacuation warnings. That's why we have mandatory evacuations. That's why we try to get the messaging out to people that this is still an incredibly dynamic incident. So I just want to share that with everyone. Quite a distance away from the communities. We continue to be diligent, and we don't want it in there, but it has to be mentioned. So thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Chad. We do have quite a few questions about the weather and the wind, so we brought up the incident meteorologist, Mark.
Good evening, I'm Mark Luffbein, the incident meteorologist. Yeah, we'll take a look at the weather the next couple of days. Tomorrow, our winds are eventually going to swing around to the southwest late in the afternoon. They'll start to pick up gusts to maybe 18 miles per hour. After that, we do expect things to get a bit more gusty. As we head into Sunday and Monday, we are looking for winds sustained 15 to 20 miles per hour, gusting possibly to 30 miles per hour. So it is going to get a bit windy for us. Temperature's going to be up around the both days in RHs. That's one of the things we look at. Our relative humidities, I should say, are going to be down around 10%. So it's going to be pretty dry and pretty windy. Our winds will continue from the southwest through the remainder of the week. They shouldn't be as strong, though, as they're going to be on Sunday and Monday. Those are the 2 days I'm really highlighting for a change in weather. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. Next up, we're going to invite our Incident Commander, Jerry McGowan, and the incoming Incident Commander, Evans Quo, for our closing comments.
Thank you, Kristen. Good evening, everybody. One thing I want to remind, and I don't think we covered it today, this fire, as we look on this map, is 750,000 acres. And right now it's 46% contained. And roughly there's about 4,500 firefighters all the way around the incident, taking care of most concerns all the way around here. On the east zone, I don't know if we covered that, but there's about 1,300 firefighters along this whole side here and holding a lot of this area, as Chad was talking about, the operations was talking about in this area, and working along. We are studying the weather. We are studying the fire behavior and the movement of this fire. So it's one of those things where there's a lot of effort with that. With that, and as a forest supervisor of the Plumas National Forest stated, we're going to transition out. And with that, it is our charge to make sure that they all understand our thoughts, our concerns, and make sure that they are educated in everything that we know about this incident before they take it over. And that's what we've been spending a few days on, to make sure that everybody is basically dialed up to where they can assume command. And with that is my friend Evan Cook. from the Great Basin Team 1. Camera there. And then the other part of this is, remember, as was stated before, there was a transition earlier with Cal Fire Team 3, Cal Fire Team 1. So there's a bunch of ones here. Cal Fire Team 1, Great Basin Team 1 down here. But they're both, and we're treating this just like one big fire. Again, 750,000 acres. So remember, we have to share resources, share aircraft to all the places that are high priority within this fire. Okay, Evan, you got anything?
Thank you, Jerry. Good evening, everybody. My name is Evan Squam. I'm the Incident Commander for Great Basin Team 1. So in case you're not familiar with the Great Basin, we're the adjoining geographic area to the east. So the Great Basin is comprised of Nevada, Utah, and the southern part of Idaho, and a small part of Wyoming. But we have worked with Jerry and his team before in the past, and we've also worked with Nick Truax, the Incident Commander on Cal Fire Team 1 up on the west zone. So we, as Jerry mentioned, as well as the force supervisor on the Plumas, we've been spending pretty much most of today as well as all day tomorrow trying to come up to speed as far as what the strategy and tactics that are working on this fire, all the various concerns with the cooperators, building those relationships that Jerry and his team have already started, and our intention is to continue that effort and move forward as we go on into this next coming week. So with that, thank you very much.
And from California Incident Management Team 1, I hope we have served you well, and thank you.
Thank you so much for that. This will conclude our virtual community meeting this evening. Again, we will be recording this and posting it in its entirety. It'll be up on Facebook, InstaWeb, as well as the story map. Please continue to ask your questions in the chat. We will respond to those as they do. And have a good evening. Thank you.
Hola, soy Julissa González, portavoz del Servicio Forestal, y hoy les contaré la última información sobre el incendio de Dixie. El incendio ha crecido poco desde ayer a 750.672 acres, está 46% contenido y 4.753 personal están combatiendo el incendio en este momento. Lo más reciente desde ayer en la tarde sobre la zona oeste del incendio Dixie, los vientos ligeros dispersaron poco el humo que se había asentado en los valles durante la noche. También se anticipan para hoy vientos ligeros del noroeste que no disiparán